Are there other questions in the audience? Yes.
Does anyone know if in her book that's coming out next year there will be any stories that could be important to the LGBTQ community?
I think so. I mean, Lynn has certainly...
Let me repeat the question. The question is, in the book that's going to come out next spring, are there any stories or insights that would be of value to the LGBTQ community?
Yeah. Yes, I'm sure there are. It was Sally's partner, Tam, that contacted Lynn. Lynn and Sally were friends for, yeah.
Well, Lynn was at SDS7.
Yeah, she was at the launch. You know, Sally and Tam were, I think, I can guarantee that their story will be in the book. I think some of the really wonderful things that have come as a result of, you know, they're having a conversation about the obituary. And Sally, it's hard to explain. You know, when Sally, just the closest members of the family knew that Sally had pancreatic cancer for almost a year and a half. And it was simply amazing that that word didn't get out. She didn't want people to know. She's a very private person, as Alan said, just an incredibly private person. Sally and Tam were together for 27 years, and their friends, people who knew them, knew that they were, you know, that they were partners. And they never did anything particularly to hide it, but in the same way that, you know, people just really don't know much about Sally at all. That's kind of like, I'm the noisy one in the family, and I'll show pictures and talk about her, and that's fine. But I think the revelation of their relationship is going to be a great aid. I know the whole question of benefits has come up, well, I think it's a really interesting time. I continue to be, I mean, just in the last year and a half or so, the advances made are absolutely breathtaking. You know, that you would think there would be a little controversy over naming an elementary school after her, given that, you know, she was a gay person, but not a word. So it's, I think it's good.
When did she first bring Tam home to the family?
You know, that's really a good question. She and Tam were tennis buddies when they were teenagers, so they've probably known each other since they were 11 or 12 years old. And, you know, they never talked about their relationship, but they were together and it was pretty clear. You know, it's just, we're Norwegian, for God's sake. We really are Norwegian, and people just need to understand what that means. You don't talk. I trust that Lynn is going to use a sermon that I once preached that was entitled "You Never Asked," and that's kind of how the family operates, and I think it's how Norwegians operate. Do I have time to tell a really quick story that I think illustrates this? When I turned 30, I think my mom took me out to lunch and said, you know, I think one of the reasons that you are how you are, and I don't know how I was, but, you know, it was like being stubborn or something. And she said, because you're related to Robert E. Lee. And I was 30 years old, and I said, I'm related to Robert E. Lee. How could this be? I'm related to Robert E. Lee. Cool. And she said, how do I, you know, she said, well, you never asked. That's a very good point. I had never asked if I was related to Robert. It was especially odd because it turns out it was my father's side of the family, and my father was a political scientist. And why didn't he say something, you know, about being related? Especially my best friend in high school.